All right. Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. Beautiful morning. My podcast engineer, Anton, caught me off guard. Didn't give me the normal three, two, one. Just kind of put me out there to the sharks, but that is okay because I'm prepared. All right. I'm ready. Hope that everyone is doing well. Hope that you and your families are well as we are essentially looking at the second half of May. It's gone quickly. And we're headed into the full blown summer. So I want to talk to you today about a few things, but primarily it's about investing in real estate, investment properties in particular, and even more particular than that, in various urban areas. And some of the things that I have personally witnessed and seen in the DC metro area over the past several years, as everyone else has seen take place here, and also Baltimore. So there's a few things that we're going to talk about today. Coming into this year, I think everyone, for the most part, we were all looking forward to getting on the tail end of the virus vaccine, putting a lot of the political chaos and nonsense behind us and really just starting fresh, having a white slate, clean slate, for our lives and for our families and professionally. Um, and God willing, that's been taking place, definitely for a lot of people. I don't think we could have really anticipated what's going on currently in the market, specifically, as I've talked about many times, when we're talking about what's called scarcity, or lack of supply with regards to uh, properties that are going up for sale across the country. The very simple supply and demand curve, which is giving sellers all of the leverage, and they are taking 100% full, you know, uh, full advantage of that for sure, to get as much money, squeeze as much water out of the rock, squeeze the blood out of the rock as possible. Can't blame them. It's capitalism, right? That's the country we live in. There are a lot of people coming also into this year, which have really realized, and I see a bit of a small wave of people looking to get into what's called, like multifamily unit purchasing or just investment property purchasing. It's been around for a long time, but I've seen it much more prevalent so far this year. So I want to talk about that for a few minutes. Number one, I think it's a fantastic idea. I think especially when you have a very clear game plan in terms of what you're looking to do when you are purchasing an investment property, and also making sure that you have a clear understanding of what the parameters are, the guidelines, the rules, the expectations are when it comes to that. When you have individuals, and I'm talking about residential investing here specifically, for residential investing, you're going to have investors that have different motivations, right, for purchasing a property. For example, a person may buy a property to fix it up and have a tenant get in there, live in there, and stay for a while. Okay. So typically the purpose behind that is to have what's called cash flow. So the amount of rent that you are receiving each month exceeds the amount of mortgage that you're paying on the loan by a certain amount, right? So that difference, or that delta, is called your cash flow. So you always want it to be nicely positive, right, for your pocket, for sure. That's why it's an investment, because you are investing money in order to get an ROI, a return on that investment. That's one reason. Another reason why people do that, they purchase a home for investment purposes, is to do what's called a fix and flip, right? So I'm sure you've heard that term many times. Basically, the house is purchased, uh, maybe at a discount or so. There's a certain amount of work that's done on the home. I don't know, and it could be anywhere from $5,000 to $100,000, or any iteration in between. But the work is done on the property, and then after that work is done on the property is assigned by an appraiser something called an ARV, which is an after rehab or after renovation value. That's the key. That's the centerpiece of that type of loan, because the higher that ARV is, then you turn around, you put the house back on the market and you sell it for much higher so that you can recoup, right, the amount of money that you put in as a down payment, the amount of money that you put toward the renovations, and of course pay off the original loan. And so then you have a profit margin that you've made there. Okay, so that's a definitely another reason why, some people purchase multiple properties, maybe less expensive properties. Maybe they want to, I've heard buy the block, right? There are people who want to be able to do that. And, part of, I subscribe more to that chain of thought, or that train of thought, if it's even possible, because really what you're doing is it's more philanthropic, in my opinion, if you're able to do that. Because let's say, for example, in Baltimore, you can look in various areas of not downtown Baltimore, just go a little bit north, go way up Charles Street and Baltimore Street, go off of MLK Boulevard, right? Go off of Pratt Street, right? And you'll find so many row homes, right? I mean, right outside of Johns Hopkins University, you'll find so many row homes that are, unfortunately boarded up, dilapidated, areas that are not taken care of, where if the right investor with the right amount of money and focus and plan can purchase a certain number of homes, put a certain amount of money into it, and then families can move into those homes. Families can have the pride of renting a property where it's well taken care of, and the homes to their left and to their right are well taken care of, and their kids, can feel good about going out to play, and they can feel good about having people come over and to spend time with them. That is, if you're able to do it properly, it's a house by house, block by block, area by area plan, where you're not gentrifying, you're not kicking people out. Okay. But what you're actually doing is now you're inviting inclusion, and it's actually a win-win situation as far as I'm concerned, because the investor is getting a return on his or her investment. And then also families who may not have had a home or property with the proper upkeep, get a chance to do that. So look, if you have the opportunity to do it, why not do it? I know one person who's looking to do it. He works for me. His name is Chris Brouard. You need to contact him, because he is focused on making that happen up in Baltimore to help change people's lives, What we do here at Visionary Lending is we provide very simple, basic, understandable terms, so that if that's something that you want to do, that it's not intimidating. Okay, but it's completely possible, but you just have to understand. Typically, if you want to purchase an investment property, you're going to need a 20% down payment. 20% down. Okay. So if you want to buy a property that's $100,000, you will need $20,000 for your down payment. We're not talking about closing costs. We're not talking about appraisal. We're not talking about home inspection. Those are other things. Okay. Appraisal will typically cost you around $500, give or take. And a proper home inspection will cost you somewhere around $400, give or take. All right. Especially when you're buying an investment property, it is critical to get a home inspection done, because you need to know what's going on in this house before you purchase it, because again, you're putting your money and your time and your effort and your plans into it. So you want to have the proper viewpoint and the proper, perspective. In the past, so I've been reading this book. I don't know if I have it over here near me right now. No, it's behind me, but it's called The Color of Money. And it's an amazing book, because it talks, and I'm going to be going over this a little bit more in the future, but it talks about like what was going on even after slavery, right? What was going on with what's called the Freedmen's Bank. I encourage you to research what's called the Freedmen's Bank. What happened after President Lincoln had enacted the Homestead Act, and then the president right after him came in and repealed the Homestead Act. Okay. If the Homestead Act would have stayed in place, I would definitely argue that the future of African Americans in this country would have been vastly different than it is right now. We'd be looking at something completely different. So I encourage you to Google it and get a really good understanding of what happened then. Not necessarily rehashing and going through, a century or two of what happened in the past, but let me tell you something. When you really take a good look at what's occurred in this country for decade after decade after decade, you get to see crystal clear why African Americans, why we feel the way that we do, why there is so much upheaval in certain areas, and you get to see all of the injustice, to say the least, that has taken place that has really put us behind the eight ball of sorts. But let me tell you, African American men and women are men and women of resilience and love and passion and drive, and have been able to push through those things. And quick big shout out also to many of the immigrants coming from many different countries here to the United States, because there's the same passion and drive and work ethic and stick to itness that is necessary in order to make it. African Americans are not just the only ones. We do not have the market cornered. Okay. It's a shout out to what's deep down inside when you are faced with major adversity. How do you react? Right? How do we rise up? How do we stand up? And how do we push forward at the end of the day? Okay. As far as investment properties are concerned, I just went to an event. Shout out to Be Niched, and shout out to Tamika Harris. There was was Tamika Harris. I can't remember if that's her last name. Sorry if that's not your last name, but I went to a great event last Friday that was hosted by Carmelita Turner and Stephanie DeBerry. There's a lot of people there talking about this very thing, because I think that in particular with many minorities in this country, we've become so indoctrinated, right, within our own minds and within our households of we got to take care of right here, right now. We got to pay the rent. We have to put food on the table, and we have to put clothing on our back, which I completely understand. That's real talk. That's real stuff. But if you're ever going to catch up, if you're ever going to close that wealth gap, then you also have to be forward thinking, right? You have to think ahead. You have to be able to put aside what you can in order to plan for the future, and not just have short-term limited thinking, right? Because if you have short-term limited thinking, you will get short-term limited results. Okay. And that has happened to many people, but I really see that tide beginning to change. When you look at Washington, D.C., I went to graduate school in Washington, D.C., and lots of areas of Southeast D.C. were not desirable at that time. Tamika Bryant, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Lots of areas of Southeast DC were just not desirable by any means. You go there now, you got the Audi soccer stadium, which is gorgeous. You got the Nat Stadium. You got the water. You got the restaurants. You've got government buildings, luxury apartments, condos. Now that took a decade more, really, of change, probably 20 years of change, but it's happened and it's happening. And I think that a lot of people who are forward thinking and investors are now looking at Baltimore, Maryland, where I'm from, born and raised. Now looking at Baltimore, because there is so much opportunity in Baltimore. But let me be clear, Baltimore, Maryland is not Washington, D.C. There are many, many differences, which we will not go into right now. But what I am saying is that there are many deserving men and women and hardworking families in Baltimore, Maryland right now who I am sure would love to live in a home that has been renovated, well taken care of, so that they can raise their children, right? And clean up the block and change the area so that that eventual transformation can also occur. I am 100% faithful, and I am 100% confident that that can and will happen with the right amount of heart, the right amount of actual investment and execution of the plan in order to make that happen. If you are a person who is looking to invest in real estate, really anywhere here within the DMV, and you have specific questions on, well, you're not even sure how the loan process works. you're not sure of some of the details, definitely give me a call, 703-268-6750. Okay. Reach out to us here at Visionary Lending. You can reach out to my compadre, Chris Brouard. His email is chris@visionarylending.net. And my email is brandon@visionarylending.net. We would be more than happy to talk to you and walk you through some examples of exactly how it works, exactly what it looks like, because typically what stops people from making that first step is one word, and that's fear. Okay. And as Winston Churchill said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And I firmly believe in that, because we allow ourselves to get paralyzed because we're uncertain of what's uncertain, right? But if you don't have that leap of faith and jump out there, then you will never know. But I'm not asking people to do anything blindly, because I encourage you to do your research, and I encourage you to speak to a mortgage professional. Look, whether it's us or somewhere else, speak to a mortgage professional, speak to a real estate professional, so that you can get the proper guidance and advice and roadmap in order to make that happen for you. There is no reason why, if you have the resources, the monetary resources, your credit is where it needs to be, you have the drive, you have the discipline to make it happen. There's no reason why you can't own 1, 2, 3, 4, or many investment properties and make that work for you. I firmly believe it. And we're here to help you make and take those first steps. So if there's questions you have, again, please reach out to us. Look, we have a lot of very valuable information that's on our website, www.visionarylending.net. And definitely check out our YouTube page, where we have our podcast, where we've had amazing, fruit-filled conversations with various individuals. There are instructional, I'm not going to say interactive, not interactive, but very instructional and lively videos about a variety of business, motivational, and real estate topics. It's really a treasure trove for you. Our YouTube page is Visionary Lending. We are located here in Woodbridge, Virginia. We have members of our staff who are bilingual with Spanish. I speak Spanish, but I am not a native speaker. Lo siento. But we have members of our staff who are definitely bilingual. We are very, very inclusive. We are very loving and caring and serious and competent people. And that is what it is all about. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time. God bless. I pray that you and yours are safe. Again, please reach out to us if you have any questions, any concerns. Look forward to seeing everyone again.